Welcome everyone to the 9th One Nation, One Planet, One Race for World Peace. It's Tuesday, October 10th, 2017. And once again, we are fortunate enough to have Caroline Kesh with us for today's teaching. I'm your host, Rick Crammond, and I think we're ready to begin today's teaching with a presentation from Pete from the Universal Council. Pete, are you ready to begin today? I think, or are we going to hear from Caroline? I know her connection is a little
Yes, I am ready.
iffy right now.
It's a good point.
Okay.
Thanks, Rick. I'll just share my screen if you allow me to do so.
I think you'll be able to go ahead there.
This will stop other screen sharing. Do you want to continue?
Just push that. It's okay.
Yeah. Okay, so here we go. So, can you see a fine presentation?
Yeah, it's good.
Okay, thank you. So this is a little presentation I put together to give in one of the Thursday meetings several weeks ago, but unfortunately it didn't happen. So I'm bringing it here to the Tuesday teachings. So perhaps I'll just quickly introduce myself. So my name is Pete, or actually Przemek Woźnowski, and I'm a Universal Council member for the Polish language. When I was preparing this presentation, I was also inspired by what Wayne said when he introduced himself as an Earth Council member. I do also have similar tragic stories of what Wayne was telling about the Vietnamese War and so on. My grandfather was in 3 different concentration camps, so there's a lot of suffering that my family experienced because of the war and so on. So I really was feeling what Wayne was saying when he was talking about, when he was introducing his story. I also come from a medical family. My mother is a medical doctor, so this is something that sort of I grew up with, this ethos of helping others, truly helping others, not just prescribing them pills that deal with the symptoms. It's actually finding the root cause that every doctor and each of us should be, to deal with the problem, we should really find the root cause, look at the problem holistically, and not just at the symptoms. So to start the presentation, how and when to give. So I think this is in response to Aza's question 4 weeks ago in the Thursday public teachings about sort of can we enforce this knowledge onto people? Can we help them regardless whether they need our help or not? So to address this question, the answer is we cannot enforce. If you bring 2 magnets close to each other with the same polarity, they will repel. So one needs to be prepared to give. The other one needs to be prepared to take. So we need opposite polarities in order for it to work. So we do not enforce, but we offer, we give unconditionally. We put on a table for the other person to take. And when the other person is prepared to take, they will take what they need at the point of need. Another point is a story of an alcoholic. So this is probably quite timely, bearing in mind that in the last couple of teachings we were talking about addictions as well, and Mr. Kesh brought us an understanding of the addictions. So here I wanted to say about, well, actually something I experienced personally. My father is an alcoholic, so he was forced some time ago, I don't know, 5 or 7 years ago, he was forced to go on this therapy, 3 months in isolation in a dedicated institution that was supposed to fix him. Obviously, it wasn't his choice. He was kind of made to do it. And actually, as a result, he sort of kept straight for a year or 2. And then after time, he reverted back to drinking. And I'm sure many of us have similar stories in their families, and examples of how these institutions fail to deliver in the circumstances when the person is forced to undertake such therapy, when it's not their choice. Obviously, after a while, alcoholism is a probably good example of it, how people, after even being straight for a couple of years, they will revert back to their own way of living, of dealing with their own problems. So going back to drinking alcohol. So it's not the way it's approached right now in the current society. It's clearly not working. It doesn't reach the initial cause of the problem. It just tries to deal with the symptoms and tries to set the person straight for the time being without actually solving what the real cause of the problem is. And because it's enforced, then it bounces back, and they say, you're an alcoholic for your entire life. And probably, that there is an element of truth in it. If you don't deal with the root cause of the problem, then you're probably stuck for life with it. So you cannot enforce, that's the message, because the other person fights back and reverts to its original habits. So you can only offer help, but cannot force. And another example, if you look at kids, if you try to force something onto them, they go in the exactly opposite direction. So you get this resistance even from the young age. So it's not only how the logic mind works, we can observe it with children as well. So the third bullet point here, finding the cause. Finding the root cause of the problems, as it is, for example, as we talked about the cancer processing. So we know that there are three causes of cancer, and for example, from the blood test, we can find what is the seed of the cancer. For example, in some cases, it's calcium. So it's really working with finding what the real problem is, and then you can create environmental conditions, plasmatic wind, as we call it, to deplete the cancer. And same works for other conditions such as addictions. Fourth point here is processing, so physical processing, changing environment to fix physicality. Having magraphs in your house without your partner's agreement, for example, in my understanding, is okay, because here you don't enforce anything. You just have this device present in your environment, and you don't need anybody's permission to have it. Other people, other occupants in this house, they will only take what they need from the magraph at the point of need, and what they don't need, they won't take. So unless somebody is prepared to receive something, then something like this should have no effect on them. It's the same as giving unconditionally. You always give regardless of the circumstances, and if somebody is prepared to take, then they will take it. And then the last point here on this slide is soul to soul. So our souls work in the same way as magnets do, and magnets do not enforce. You change the position of one magnet of one soul, and the rest repositions according to their strength and desire. So you elevate your soul, and the physicality follows. So I move on to the next slide. Isolation. So I do remember that the week before I meant to give this presentation, there was somebody came up with an idea that perhaps in order to deal with the difficult people, with those who don't want to agree to certain ethos, we should be isolating them. We should be sending them out in space and so on. So I couldn't quite agree with this idea, and I think Rick or somebody else also commented on this. But perhaps bringing a story, for example, bringing a story of an alcoholic is showing you how it wouldn't work. It's a punishment. It's not a love-based approach. It's repeating the same mistakes that we did in the past, and this can cause a lot of problems. So we shouldn't be solving problems in the way we are used to, because clearly these approaches don't work. We should take a different approach. So in this case, a love-based approach. So in the context of the story of, in the example of an alcoholic, I wonder how many of you have similar experiences. We cannot replicate something that in general doesn't work. We need different approach. We need to approach it with love and understanding. Would you like to be isolated? How would you feel? You would probably be angry at others, because of what they've done to you. Perhaps some of us would look for revenge when an opportunity comes. So we really should be doing to others as if we were doing it to ourselves. Would you punish yourself? Or is it better to love yourself and accept yourself just the way you are? So punishment and guilt is how religions work, and we know that clearly this isn't working. This is an approach that was taken in order to steer people, in order to control people, and we don't want to be doing this. So moving on, togetherness and sharing. So one approach to the problem would be higher togetherness and sharing. Does plasma isolate, or is it always ready to interact with other plasmas? We share freely to educate others. We give people a fish when they are not strong enough to hold the fishing rod, but we do explain it to them at the same time and teach them how to fish, so that over time they are self-sustainable and they can pass this knowledge on to others. We should be helping each other and not punishing each other. Like we've seen in the previous example, punishment is not a solution. And really it comes to understanding that it's okay to take, it's okay to ask for help. I also had to learn it myself. I always wanted to solve everything by myself. But point in time comes where there's really no harm in taking. In plasma, one gives and the other one takes. So for this process to occur, one needs to be prepared to receive, otherwise there is no match. So there's no dishonor in taking. Sometimes every single one of us needs a little bit of help. Also, plasma likes to interact. So when two plasmas interact, this creates life. This is how the sun interacted with the magnetico-gravitational fields of the Earth to create the amino acid, which led to the creation of life. And also, if we look at the example of natural disasters, we can work together effectively in such circumstances. So this only proves that there is a willingness, and if there is a need, then people come together and can solve literally any problem. So how I see it work, in plasma, stronger feeds the weaker. So the way it's been the old way is media feeding us with bad news. And, you really have to be careful. You can observe what fields it activates in you. You can see how you feel after watching news on the television. And this creates this huge field to which every person watching or believing in what's being played on the TV adds to. So there is this huge field of negativity, of fear being created, and every person watching, every person in which certain emotions gets triggered based on the transmission, every person adds to it. So also religions are pretty much the same. Look at how many people believe in these systems based on fear, on sin, on control. Another question is, do we really support our governments in their actions? Who wants their brothers and sisters to die or killed during the war? Who wants for a child or a mother from another nation to die? I mean, this isn't something I agree to. I'm sure many people don't agree with it, yet we sit patiently in front of our telly, we watch the news, we are told that this is democracy. But I mean, does any of us actually support these movements? So this is the old way. This is how media, religions, and governments control us, by planting certain information in front of us and raising certain field strengths. The new way, the way I see it, is that can be done with one sun, as Mr. Kesh said many times. So same as one sun serves our solar system and creates so much, the same can be done, just with one soul. Or alternatively, many suns at the same field strength. So in the same way as media and governments plant a certain field strength in us, this negativism, the hate towards each other and so on, we can work with the field strength of love and peace. In this way, the sum of our parts becomes stronger, becomes bigger than the rest, and it's now us being the stronger and feeding the weaker. So we dictate what it is that we are prepared to give, and others can take it if they want to. However, this time there is no war or killing on the menu. We dictate, we are the stronger. So the spectrum of fields offered does not have such elements anymore as war and killing. And obviously, there is the charter to help us, to guide us in this process. Charter being written by ECUC and the core team. So how to approach it? First of all, as Caroline said many times, standing in front of the mirror and accepting yourself, giving love to yourself, filling in your own cup is the key. Getting to know the creator in you. That's one of the key elements. Second of all souls are the same. We just have different filters, different emotions, different languages, and all the conditioning we went through during the course of our life. So if you elevate your soul, this is how you can reach other souls, and the physicality will follow. And the final point is, as Mr. Kesh suggested, and I really liked it, when you go to bed, as your physicality rests, offer your soul to peace, to elevate others and those in need. So just to summarize the response to the peace treaty, I mean, within the Polish community, we've, during the public teachings, we were sort of drafting the letters, we are sending them off to the president, to the prime minister, and so on. So I think a fair number of emails and messages went to these. And unfortunately, there's no reply of any kind to date, not that I am aware of. And I really have to say the signing of the World Peace Treaty was a really special day for me, and I'm sure it was the same for other council members and the entire nation. We have approached media in Poland to inform them about this event, but we also didn't get any reply. And in the same time, you get to hear on the media that they are reporting that the government is spending more and more money on the military. But I think it's all okay. The time will come when they are ready. Right now, they are too busy with their own greediness and other affairs of the physicality. But I'm calm, I'm patient. I'm sure this will change very soon. So this is something I wasn't sure whether Caroline is going to be here, so I thought I'll put this message on. So this is something that Caroline was posting yesterday. So perhaps we can spend some time reading the message on the screen and connecting with the people who are in need, who suffered after the Hurricane Marias. So perhaps I'll just leave it on the screen for a while, and this will be the end of my presentation. So thank you.
You could read it if you'd like.
Okay. So the message is, after 19 days after Hurricane Maria's passing, we are as if the hurricane was still here. The few hospitals that could open are still working with diesel generators. It's been very hard for them to find diesel due to demand and extremely expensive for us all to keep on living with generators. Everyone is spending on gas or diesel for energy double in a week what usually one would spend money-wise in a month. Government is just waiting for some miracle because it's economically broken and have no money to install more than 1,007 energy posts, hundreds of generators that exploded, and thousands of energy lines on the floor, and at the same time deal with mudslides, inundations, people living in blocked areas without food and water, people that lost their homes, refugees, sick, elderly, etc. All gets more complicated by no communication. Of 1,070 cell towers, only 320 are working. Many sick and old people are dying from lack of everything. The foundation, PPG, would be so helpful for hospitals, schools schools where refugees are living, kitchens for refugees, food preparations. Please, Mr. Kesh, come and experiment with your PPG here. We will receive with open hearts the excess of energy it produces. Please try to contact our government. If I can be of any help, will be at your disposition. Sheila G.
Thank you, Pete. Just so people know, the PPG stands for the Plasma Power Generator from the Keshe Foundation. That is in the experimental phase and may be introduced soon. Okay, do we have any connection with Caroline yet? I see an open microphone there. I think they're trying to connect.
Can I speak?
Ah, there we go. Hi, Mr. Keshe.
Hi. She's just busy trying to get the internet sorted out for her. She'll be about 5 or 10 minutes, hopefully. We have seen this request, and we are considering the options of how we can help and how it can be done. We are speaking to the people in the background how such a situation is not just this country, but number of countries are in problem with the same thing. And we have the same kind of situation continuously reoccurring on a continuous basis around the world. You might get my net dropping off, but I come back after 20 seconds. There is something wrong with my network. Can you hear me? Yes, okay. When I drop off, let me know. What is important is we are looking at every option. We had this situation 2 years ago, 3 years ago, with the same area. We helped, and we ended up to regret to being involved because of the situations which was risen by other people. But it was glad that we helped. Some people were taught the work of the foundation. The PPG is not an answer to this.
Hello, Mr. Keshe. I think we might have lost your connection there. We'll just wait for a few seconds here. It should come back. I believe the last words were PPG is not the answer for this. So obviously Mr. Keshe has some kind
Can
of...
you hear me now?
Yes, hello Mr. Keshe.
Yes, okay, so I'm back again. This is going to happen frequently.
Okay.
My last word was PPG is not the answer.
Yes, exactly.
Yes, I understand. The position is we are considering a number of options, not just with this accident incident or disaster, with a lot of others which are happening frequently this time of the year on regular basis, and then in the spring. Then we have earthquakes and the rest. So we are talking to being able to deliver a comprehensive what we call working system for every aspect of it. For this reason, we are moving the total work of the Keshe Foundation, Universal Council, Earth Council, and core team into the Tuesday afternoon, what we call the workshops. This point from now on becomes part of, or become the main point for any request or any advancement or any suggestion or the solutions for all kind of problems, disasters, teaching, and every other matter. So where we used to give the Thursday morning to the Universal Council and Earth Council
I believe we've lost Mr. Keshe again there briefly.
but with this process of um, bringing everything to Tuesday afternoons. The Universal Council, Earth Council, get a permanent position for their work for public. This is not anymore the meeting in the afternoons where they used to be, um, discussing about the peace treaty and signing of the one nation. From now on, they start what I call running and executing their work on Tuesday afternoons. You can come in, we've seen this letter, it'll come to the foundation. We are considering it, how to finance it, how to bring it technology out that it can be used. You got to realize to build a PPG, it takes at least 6 weeks. And in a way of mass production, it takes 3-4 months. It's not just giving one unit. We don't have thousands of them. We've developed the technology. There are prototypes and finished units, but no mass production. So this is not going to be an answer for this situation or the ones to come unless we set up the factories we are setting up to be able to see the rapid demand. The solution and the help, as we saw with uh, 2 years ago, that they start teaching people how to use this technology, how to help themselves. This is the answer. And Universal Council and the Earth Council and the core team have to use these Tuesday afternoons to coordinate all these activities and the wishes of the councils. This is where we become as part of a government, and the Keshe Foundation in the background will see how we can support the wishes and to be done.
Hello. Well, once again, I think we have a.
Yes.
Okay, there we
Yeah.
go.
There is a problem. I downloaded one of these apps, and this app keeps on breaking the system every 60 seconds. We don't know how it's done. If somebody can help with it, we're trying to sort it out. Every 60 seconds, and all the Apple just cuts off and it comes back on again. In any case, the Universal Council, the Earth Council, now have a permanent contact point with public. This is not coming here and trying to write the wishes or the what I call the ethos or the peace treaty. From now on Tuesdays is practical how World Population Keshe Foundation supporters can come together to support cases like this. We've done that with Italy. We saw how Northern European nations supported to help Italy with the earthquake disaster. How can we help? Pads, pens, systems that can be taken in, water purification systems which we are developing will become available for these disasters. So in so many ways, Tuesday afternoons from now on top of these, what was like a workshops, becomes a point interface of all the members of the councils with public. You have a solution, come, this is the solution. We can support how you can support and organize it from this point on. The Earth Council, Universal Council have to start taking responsibility for it. That this way, all the Earth Councils, you have a problem in a Spanish language, or a Spanish community, or somewhere is the Spanish speaking position, or
Okay, I think we know how this game works. We have to wait just a few seconds. Hello, Mr. Keshe.
come back again, and how they can help, how they can organize things. So in a way, the start of the governing starts from here, Tuesday afternoons, and you can come and ask for the member of your language to come to the council and find a solution for you in your own language, or find a positive move. We are not coming here to blame, we are not coming here to bring problems, we are coming here to find solutions, to be positive and to be joyful in finding a positive answer. We are not here to come and say, you told us you do this, you didn't do that. No. You bring it, you suggest it, support it. All the supporting of the Keshe Foundation, core team, supporters of the Earth Council, all from now on become interactive. We have a number of disasters. What are we going to do with them? Different languages. We have problems in Africa, we have problems in Asia, we have problems in Europe, we have problems in South America, we have problem hurricane a few weeks ago in the United States. From now on, the Keshe Foundation Tuesday afternoon becomes a center point of positive move interaction between people and the core team, that they start learning the governing, the right approach to bring the right connections, right support across the planet. We see this as the only solution.
And again, I think we lost the connection briefly. Right on time. I believe it's a Bluetooth connection issue with iOS 10. If somebody in the tech realm can find a solution for that, that would be nice.
Hello, I'm back again. Can you hear me?
Hi, Mr. Keshe. Yes.
Hello, can you
Yes.
hear me?
Yes. Hi.
Yes. So thank you very much. This is the problem, which should not be a problem. This is a solution from now on. Planning in advance, if these things happen, which happens all the time, how different members of different languages, different areas help. We need a huge help into the Islamic nations in Syria, in parts of Middle East. We need huge help to Syrians in Europe, Arab speaking. Where is the Arab speaking member of the council? These solutions has to come from the foundation. This is not anymore just coming and I wish and I support and I'm there. From now on, members of the council become hands-on, and as they take over the position, understand what it is, their wishes become reality, they say what they need, and with the support of the councils and the rest of the Keshe Foundation worldwide, we try to meet their wishes, to meet what is needed. It has to be understood, this is a progressive growth. It's not going to be tomorrow we can have 1,000, 10,000, 100,000 PowerPoints or pads or whatever. You have to start organizing in.
Hello, Mr. Keshe. Hello. Okay, we'll wait another minute here for that connection to be reestablished. Can anyone recall the last sentence we heard from Mr. Keshe? We may have gone on for a bit longer than the last times.
Saying that we have to start organizing. So,
right, thank you, Flint.
Universal Council and supporters and anybody that wants to help, so forth. So that's the topic that was on. Yep.
Okay, we have a. Are you still screen sharing, Flint?
I
No.
stopped mine screen share, so if you want to put the
Yeah, I'll
Okay.
go. No
anything on.
problem. Okay.
Okay, so just to recap, it seems like there'll be some changes with the Universal Council and Earth Council and how they interact with the world at large, and with particularly this meeting on Tuesdays. Is there any input from anyone from the Universal Council or Earth Council? While we're waiting here, maybe they could say something about that, or any ideas how that might be implemented in this meeting. What would that look like? In the case of the Puerto Rico example, how might that be approached as an Earth Council and as a Universal Council? What kinds of outreach can be used for that situation? How do we connect? How do we communicate? How do we promote the technology that might be able to enable those people to help themselves in some ways? And how do we get help to them from outside sources as well? What does help look like?
Well, I know some time ago or some years ago there was discussion of actually putting together, cargo containers of stuff that could be shipped to places.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that would be an answer, and of course you'd have to have a team of people that go along with that cargo shipment.
That's right. They had a big problem with the cargo containers sitting in the port, and they didn't have the truck drivers in order to take the containers out to distribute water and other supplies to people. And they had some issue with that. I think it had to do with unions and who could drive the trucks and this kind of thing. But they were appealing to people to come into the country in order to drive the trucks and to distribute this equipment and supplies. Of course, one of the big problems is
it's not the issue of sending, but you need somebody who can receive it, do the custom clearance and whatever is required.
Mm-hmm. So with any plasma interaction, it's always a matter of the sending and receiving. That's the whole plasmatic interaction.
Documentation, taxation, etc., etc., etc. It's a complex procedure.
It
This
is.
is Moshfik speaking. Sander brought up an interesting point of documentation. I represent Bengali language, and we have some issues of distribution of clean water and GANS water for various health issues. So today and during the past week, I've been trying to go through the approval process through the equivalent of FDA, where I am located in Bangladesh. And one of the practical things I see to be of importance is to have the documentation of water treatment and the properties of GANS water available so that we can go through similar processes elsewhere. It's not just the standard bodies, but I also have talked to our Institute for Public Health, because in distributing to the refugees from Myanmar, this is also something we have to have this kind of documentation to provide clean water as well as GANS water for treatment. So we need to have these kind of documentation available. I know it exists, but if we can arrange some mechanisms so that some of us who are attempting to do such things can use these documents for this purpose. So is there any procedure or any thoughts among those who are better aware of these things than I am, of how to go about arranging something effective in achieving these kinds of approval process or interaction with the regulatory bodies? And of course, after that, the process of distribution comes next. But before we even go to the process of distribution stage, we have to have this kind of clearance or interaction.
First of all, you need somebody, a local person, who can manage all these. Then he can find an import agent, custom clearance agent, etc., etc.
I mean, before we think about import, we can also make these things. So what we are trying to do is make it. And the process or the documentation to get it approved for distribution is also necessary, or at least it simplifies the process of going to the first step of making the initial delivery. And carrying large amount of water is a tricky thing, especially if it's being shipped on or air freighted. So if we can purify the water and use the water for the treatment of people using the GANs, which we know that we can produce locally, then much of the difficulty of transportation, custom clearance, and so forth do not appear. What appear in its place is arrangement of people, local people. And that, in my case, I can do it, but some of these prior elements of documentation would help the process and accelerate the process.
Well, that might be a good question for Mr. Kesh when he comes back, if you can formulate it for him.
Okay, I'll wait until then.
It's important concept. The certification for water is quite a process in Ghana, for example, to get it certified there, and the FDA certification, and each country has its own rules and regulations and so on. So there are some issues there. The issue I see with doing it locally is there's often a shortage of water to start with, and you would have to convince people to to get this distilled water and use it to create the GANS materials or other such things, and they might be tempted to drink that water if they had no other water to drink immediately, rather than having it go through processes and so on to become part of something which they may not fully accept immediately. So this is something that the authorities need to be convinced of, and the local people and so on. We do that through the various teachings and various contacts. Part of what's happening now is there's a move in the Keshe Foundation towards standardization, working towards standardization of the workshops, for example, so that the information that people present in workshops around the world will be standardized, will be similar for each community that gets these workshop teachings. So that would be helpful, because then we'll have documents that will help back up some of the claims, and be able to point to other places in the world where this has worked, and therefore if we can get a government to accept it in one part of the world, then we can use that as an example in another part of the world to parlay off of, to enable to do it in that area. So, but I guess part of it is to coordinate these things in a disaster area. The communication and coordination in that area is all important, and the liaison with the authorities and with individuals in those conditions is the key to the whole operation, of course.
One example of this is that, like you mentioned about distilled water, the distilled water we can get here is really bad. So instead of distilled water, we are actually doing our purification using the techniques that we have. And it turns out significantly better than any tap water or filtered water facilities that we have available here. And the water tastes very good. And we have even tried purifying some of the river waters. Actually, river water tastes considerably better after purification than tap water. This is a very interesting result. And although it does not look as clear, but the taste and is significantly better, and it feels even better, which I have tested it myself. But distilled water is much worse than anything we can make. So, and we are using these water purified using GANs, but we have a ball, Magrav. We have a glass ball, which we put GANs inside the ball, and we hang the ball inside the water, and it works very well, and it creates a circular field, and the result is very tasty water. And we are also using this water in our health GANs water as well. So anyway, and we have tested it in several different ways. And solid particulate, as well as the count for the various organic particulate, goes down really low. And anyway, these are some of the results, but I think the African results that I have seen in videos would be very helpful in a document form, not in a video form, because it's difficult to present it to authorities in that form. So that was one of the questions I was asked. And although the technique we are using is slightly different, but effectively it's the same. And the result is so good that the people I know, they want this water because it's significantly better than filtered water that most people usually drink in cities in Bangladesh. Anyway, so it can be distributed as a product on its own, and then we can also use it for the creation of our GANS water for various health purposes. And we have some very interesting results in terms of some viral disease like dengue fever, which can kill people. I had it myself and I tested it, and it takes about 3 days to get cured from it. So anyway, so these are some of the things that we can do, but we need some documentation supports. And once we have that, then we can start engaging people and perhaps even go to a larger scale production. It doesn't have to be very sophisticated, but we have a lot of people, and we have also a lot of people in need. So if we can mobilize the people for the benefit of those who are in need, I think we will get not only familiarity of the technology, but the benefits and the health and simple ways of doing things that otherwise we don't know that they exist. So if anybody can help me with these kind of things, I would be very happy to proceed to the subsequent steps to further engage.
Well, the decontamination is a big issue, and especially in these emergency situations and survival situations around the world. And I believe Mr. Kesh has talked recently about a water decontamination unit that, or some kind of system that's being worked on now. So maybe we can get him to say something about that when he comes back, and he might have some suggestions how to proceed on the documentation of that as well. Is there anyone else who has some input on that topic?
Hello, Rick. Hello, all together. This is Klaus from Austria.
Hi, Klaus.
What I see from our perspective is to build the manufacturers in the different countries. We see now, for example, in Austria, we build the health section. Other countries build energy. Other countries build this. This is can bring problems in time of disasters, while we have not the full function of the system in any country. I think is maybe to think about how we can get all the stuff in all countries. This, from my perspective, would be very, very great.
Well, that's a good idea. Again, the standardization of the workshops will help with that, in that there will be a training part or theoretical part which will have we'll touch on all of the areas that the Keshe Foundation works in, and the different aspects of whether it's health, energy, and so on. It will all be looked at, and so people will have a broader perspective perhaps than if only the health is presented or only the energy aspect. So we'll sort of force people, not force, but encourage people to have a broader education about the Keshe Foundation to start with, and then they'll at least be aware of the different aspects, even though each country or each area will inevitably, because we're all individuals, tend to focus on certain aspects. It might be that agricultural is more important in one area than energy, or vice versa. But it's good for everyone to know about the different parts.
It's the first step when we bring all the same knowledge into the countries. It will work great.
Now, one thing about it is, if one particular country or area has has expertise in some of the knowledge, then in a way it forces that country to work with other countries in order to help out. If there's an emergency, then because we are the way we are, we all want to help whoever it is in that other part of the world, and that compels us to open our hearts and our minds in order to find a solution. And often that means we have to overcome language barriers or cultural barriers or understanding barriers, or various physicality barriers of getting things moved around or getting people moved around, and so on and so forth. But instead of it being just a help your neighbor thing, it becomes help your neighbor in a worldwide basis. And suddenly we have this, not suddenly, but it's been built over a period of years, we have this network around the world now that there's thousands of people that are part of the Keshe Foundation network, and it's a loose network. It's not necessarily totally organized because it's been organic in the way it's grown. It's in a similar way that the nanomaterials grow from the substrate. It's not a top-down condition that it's told what to do. It develops itself from its own material, and I think that's the way it's worked through the world. It's people have taken on this technology in a way that is organic. It just grows naturally because people like to share it. They have good results themselves, they see good results in others, and they like to help, and it's all a perfect formula in order to spread this knowledge and technology. So it's already, the groups are in many cases already out there and ready to be activated in a way, and it's a matter of just giving the right guidance and materials, some of the source material and whatnot that needs to be standardized, like I was saying before, and that is part of this workshop standardization movement that's happening, is to get the documents that are correct and have them available. Also on the Keshe Foundation Wikipedia, similar situation, getting documents and procedures that are correct. People can access that from anywhere that they have a internet connection or browser, tools to be able to search with. So if we have a number of tools like that, say the Wikipedia, if there's internet available. If there's not internet available, maybe we could have printed flyers that are distributed that have the basics of the sort of like the what's it called, the plasma, that sheet that was printed, someone help me with this, what is it called? Plasma first aid, that's it. So sort of a plasma first aid leaflets that might be useful in a situation where you have to get some basic information out that might be helpful to people, and at the same time don't have internet or don't have even voice communications in some cases. What are some other ways that we might be able to work in those situations, in these disaster situations? Try and look through the comments here to see if we can see somebody with a question or comments. Okay, is there any questions from, I see there's some comments from Ursula that, let's see here. She mentions her wish is to spread them all around local and everyone in their language, to organize public free teachings and workshops on place almost anywhere there are disasters. That means much work, but we are there to serve. Well, that is the motto that Mr. Kesh has shown us recently. We are here to serve, not to be served, is the saying, and you'll find that on the Kesh Foundation website, as on the first page in big letters. We are here to serve, not to be served. Let's see, I think, what are some of the other initiatives that are happening to help bring people together? Vince, I understand the community site is being revamped. Do you want to say a little bit about that, or is it premature?
I think at this point it's a little premature, but it should be up and running within the next week or so, which will allow people to be able to search in their area for local workshops or throughout the planet if they're going to be somewhere. So it'll give everybody the opportunity to be able to see what's going to be available, and anything that's on there is listed as a workshop or an event will be ones that are sanctioned by the Kesh Foundation. So they'll be official workshops, and they'll have gone through a process to make sure that they are teaching the right information. It's going to be a very comprehensive process to get those people ready. But I think in the long run, we'll have everybody in their own language be able to learn the same information and have it done properly throughout the world, which is what we've been looking for from the beginning, I think. Isn't that right, Rick?
Sure, yeah. So I'm just thinking maybe the way it should unfold in a way, or will unfold, is that these disaster areas actually are, they are the most important in a way, the ones that get the attention, get the urgency. The call goes out, to help your fellow human beings in a desperate situation.
And what if those desperate people had already knowledge that we're offering, and then could help their neighbors? So the ultimate goal is to be able to have people help themselves in their own environment. At the moment, we would have to, say, mobilize a group of people to go to that place, which is just expending more resources in a place that they shouldn't be. They should have that information already, and already be making or distributing pain pens or patches or whatever that they can do at that particular moment with their knowledge to help their fellow neighbor.
Mm-hmm. Although I thought maybe in my dream world, it would be nice to have a emergency disaster relief team from the Keshe Foundation. Maybe several specialists that were really good at disaster relief, whatever work that needs to be done in that situation. And the work in that case may be just establishing a liaison with the local authorities, for example. That might take a lot of time and energy to set up, just to make sure that that things flow properly through doing workshops locally and so on, that it's accepted and that it's legitimate in the eyes of the government, and they recognize the Keshe Foundation as a useful, helpful organization, rather than some organizations that might be intruding or compromising their situation or just getting in the way and that kind of thing. So if we're able to respond, to be responsible in this situation, and we take on that responsibility, the ability to respond, then it would be good. Perhaps that team wouldn't necessarily have to even go into the area, but perhaps they could help organize the other people that were in the area and set up communications between them, send any supplies that may be required if they found a way that could be done easily. Maybe make connections.
Well, that's the real
with
issue. Even in Puerto
authorities.
Rico, where there is no power, there's no information able to get to that area, and people are not in any communication, so they have to be able to help themselves in that case. And having the information pre-available or already learned, or even have some idea of it, that you can find something else to supplement the knowledge that you already have, just to get you by until you're able to come back into a communicative state that you can learn more. But the way I see in Puerto Rico right now, that it would be fantastic, except that they're already stretched to the maximum, trying to do things, get information and supplies and everything else to the areas that need it. And if those people are not able to help themselves, they're going to face real problems really soon. And if not, they're already facing those problems, and we're just not seeing it and hearing about it. But this is not a situation where it's just a hurricane. I think of Africa too, where people are living like this every day. And that's really where we need to get the information to. So people like Alex and others that are in Africa spreading the knowledge, because that's the only way that they can get the knowledge, is to actually be there and spread it. Having those people to do workshops in those areas to spread it even more and faster, then they can start helping themselves. So that's where I see the workshops going, is to these places that are already under a strain and have been for a long time. And it's time to bring them up to a level that they don't need that, because they have the knowledge to help themselves.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of areas that we don't see because they're not in the news, but we all know that they're out there. Mr. Kesh has talked about them on many occasions.
Yes, I think it's been mentioned in the live stream here. Regarding India, I believe it was, there's similar problems with clean water, and besides the hunger here in India also, Shweta comments, the physical situations are so intense.
Right, and there's many areas like that. I think we could probably sit here naming areas for half this meeting, of what really of the areas that need help.
If we think of the war zones, for example,
exactly,
they're like a disaster hitting every single day. So we've got millions, literally millions and millions of people in the world to help, and it may even be in the multiple billions if you consider the help that people need in terms of their spiritual elevation and their physical needs. I mean, even the people in North America or other so-called developed countries, you know, most people are in a stressed out situation. They are not able to meet their bills and are heavily in debt, and they're just overwhelmed. And even those in developed countries need help in some ways in order to overcome their issues, which are important to them, to prevent them.
And most have access to the knowledge. That is the difference, is the access to it.
Yeah,
we need
they
people
have
to be able
access
to
to
bring those. Exactly, we need to
too much
be able
knowledge.
to bring that. Too much knowledge.
That's the trouble in their developed countries. There's so much knowledge, so much information that's hitting you all the time that you shut down, and eventually when some real information is right in front of your face, you don't recognize it because it's just more overwhelming information, and you know, people are they get information from their TV, from their radio, from all the different sources, advertising, and you know, all the different things that we have because of the so-called, that's why I say so-called more advanced, so-called developed civilizations. In a way, it might be easier to hold a workshop in Africa to show them, because they might be more receptive than in North America, where
I think we're just as receptive, but we need to, as being from North America and Canada, people need to experience it here, because I think we are such a instant gratification society here, where we need to see it, to either believe it, or to in our own mind make sure that it works, which is unfortunate for us, because I like you said, I think Africa does have it easier in the way that they are more open to.
Okay.
And I think we have somebody else online here.
Ciao. Ciao. Hi. Hi, I'm back in. Saved by a nick of a dime. Because he keeps on getting interrupted.
Can you hear me?
yes.
Yes. Hi, sorry about that. We had a long cut. we had to sort out. I do apologize. What I was explaining is that what we try to do is to bring a structure into the work of the foundation, what we set up as the Universal Council and Earth Council, to start moving into the next step, to be effectively being able to help. When I read this letter a couple of days ago, in so many ways, it highlighted how much we have to do. Governments are very fast to buy guns. Governments are very fast to buy all sorts of what they call defense technology. But they're not that fast to respond to disasters because there is no money in it. There is no benefit in it. There is nothing for them that they can do anything because it's not beneficial to them. And so many times we see even the disaster appeals become a money-making system for those who get involved in it, or the governments who try to support these kind of things. What is important is we start taking charge of what we can do, what we can deliver, and what I would like to ask, and what I was just about to say before I got cut off, is that if the Keshe Foundation supporters can come with the facilities, with whatever, the pad, pen, water disinfectant systems, or any other kind, we can facilitate the delivery. We can go into the international market and be able to get things to a position. The foundation can deliver these kind of things at this moment of time, which means if the Keshe Foundation supporters, the Earth Council or Universal Council, and decide that this is the act we need to do, let's start building reserves, start building everything ready for time of disaster. These kind of disaster which comes, and we see on this letter, even the power generators, even water cleaning system, we have to start what I call piling up, because it's a frequent affair and it will come in different shape and form, and we got to be ready for it. As one nation, every island, every country, every soul is the responsibility of us to be able to help if we can and where we can, and the more active we become, we should be able to deliver. For this reason, I said the Tuesday afternoon workshops has to become the platform interaction between the Keshe Foundation teams, different groups, how to organize, how to deliver, how to provide everything possible. And this is important for us. So we transfer all what we gave the ground for the Thursday mornings to the Earth Council and members of the Universal Council to come and speak what they need to do or what they wanted. Now is the time of action, and this letter brings a lot home. As we are resetting all the factories of the Keshe Foundation around the world, in next 3 months, as we sit in the management team, we cannot go in any way, shape, or form to support because everything has been shut down, is getting restructured. But by Christmas, by New Year, we should be able to respond. The factories should be able to respond in so many different ways. But for the time being, it's the responsibility of the Keshe Foundation supporters, as we see it, as you see it, how we can help to be part of this help. We helped before in 2 or 3 occasions where we could. There were people on the ground that could deliver. If any Keshe Foundation supporters, doctors, medical people, people who can go into the ground, on the ground, and deliver technologies with materials, the foundation is prepared to finance the travel and the support. We can budget 30,000, 40,000 euros for this purpose. But it has to be positive. It has to be people which can do. If you have materials you want to reach, if we can come to an agreement with transport companies to take it, we can do so. I can allocate 30,000 to 40,000 euro for this purpose immediately, but it has to be correct. We have no access, as I said, all the cash foundation factories are on the transfer and shut down, rebuilding, restructuring. And after January, we can respond immediately, as we did in Italy before. We said we will open everything else. So if you're a member of the Earth Council, if you're a member of the Universal Council or a core team, in these presentations from now on Tuesdays, is your ground to start gathering what I call the team of people, the group of people around the world in the languages you speak, to start organizing the One Nation program. One Nation program, as I said years ago, I was sitting in a religious organization, and when a man asks for help, he says, it's not our job, we are here just to collect. It has to be the job of the Cash Foundation. We are here to help. Doesn't matter what we can collect. We are prepared to deliver, to give. If you are in a position, you have to be a member of the councils, or you want to become a member of the councils, then please, from now on Tuesdays and stuff, you're organizing everything for the, what I call the charter, One Nation Charter. That is your Tuesday afternoons, or what you call Monday afternoons. You meet and you spend a lot of time trying to work out every word, every sentence. On Tuesdays is the job of the councils to face the public. What can be done positive. Do not bring problems we want you to solve. We have a solution for what the problem is there, and let us collectively come into it. As I said, we can financially support to anybody who wants to at this stage, because we are shut down position. We had to move factories. We had to move 2 or 3 factories around the world from one location, and then we are in the transition. We cannot do anything that we say we can support. But if you're a Cash Foundation supporter, you can make pen, pads, anything that it can be done. You have maggraph systems. A lot of people don't understand the beauty of these maggraph systems. If a country has 100,000 power supply, they can deliver 100,000 watts. If we can put 10, 20, 50 maggraph units in position that it can be used, now the power becomes 150, 180 kilowatts. We give back, we increase the production, or we allow more efficiency into the system. This is a lot of, I was explaining this to governments. When you add so many maggraph systems, if let's say hospitals are short of electricity, but they can have, let's say, 10 kilowatts, if you add 2, 3 maggraph units to the hospital, now you have 15, 16 kilowatts. You can supply more divisions, more sections of this, or in the country. This can become effective. If the systems used can be beneficial, we can support it. And if you have systems which can be used, we are prepared to pay for shipping it, but it has to be people who are going to get used. I've seen what I call rescue packages arriving free and then becoming money for the people locally. It has to be in the hand of the Cash Foundation supporters. I have seen rice being given free by a nation and it's sold for double the market price because there is a hunger by the people around. So if you can deliver anything to any of these islands, can be done, we are prepared to support the delivery. As I said, we allocate 40,000 euro immediate release from the foundation to deliver our technologies. Doctors who can go and do help, we are prepared to pay for your tickets. If you are a medical team, you can actually effectively be effective, we are prepared to support. But from now on, these kind of support request has to come from the Earth Council, Universal Council to the Cash Foundation that we can respond. And this is how we change the position. No advertising, but delivering technology in hand directly. What what's his name, the guy in the island, Tom went to 2 years ago, if you remember, came and asked, and we supported him with $10,000 support. And he literally stood there and helped people. Even he sent his family back to Mexico. But he stood to teach, and he's benefited a lot of people in the island. If you're prepared to do, you're prepared to support. But from today on, Tuesday afternoons is the interface between public and the foundation on the core of our work and on what we are good at, delivering technologies, simple technologies which can make a change. And members of the councils have to be able to come in to deliver, to request, to put your ideas, and public to come and explain. No, my wish has to become a reality now. We need to help. And this letter is a good example of it. We are prepared to enter into the next phase, but next phase has to come according to what we physically can deliver in the foundation. And it's you, people who have made all the ganses, people who have made all the pads, everything else, they all become part of it. Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yes, Mr. Kesh. We had a question from Flint. Will we have a new title now for the Tuesday sessions, or will it continue to be the One Nation, One Planet, One Race for World Peace?
Yes, as part of it, world peace, helping people at this position is part of the world peace.
Okay, so we keep it the same title for the workshop.
Keep it the same, but it's the responsibility not the councils to come in to bring one nation for peace, bringing peace to these people. Unfortunately, as I said, the foundation factories are in a shutdown movement. In January, February, we come back to operation, 4 or 5 factories, and then we can respond to these things ourselves as well as the other people. But should not stay the responsibility of the Keshe Foundation. It should be responsibility of all of us as one nation. You were in a hurry to write to the members. You know how to make pens, collect it, let the Keshe Foundation know, let the member of the councils know. We are prepared to arrange shipping to the places we. But a lot of people who know by being there, they can do themselves a lot more in participating on the Keshe Foundation banner. We have to come into operations. We have to become a one nation, and these conditions challenge us to become more faster, effective to what we are doing.
So if people want to help, they should probably go through the Universal Council members rather than directly to the Keshe Foundation, or what would be the best?
They can go either way. Go to Keshe Foundation, go through the Webmaster Keshe Foundation. We can open the line for, there is a line for Universal Council members to be got in touch with, or come into the teaching, or put your questions in, or your requesting, or your suggestions. We don't want any negativity, because there's been enough negativity. It has to be positive. What can we do? I can do this. Who can be other place to help? We can teach, and we can go ahead. We are changing a lot of things in the background. We are developing a lot of things, but it's taking its natural process. And with what we've seen with the new challenges, we are standing up into the whole position. If you're a doctor, you have to miss 1 month job to go to help. Keshe Foundation will pay you 1 month wages. Go there and help. If you're somebody who can assist, teach, or whatever, you can take some things with you. Go to these points. We are prepared to support, but it has to be genuine. We are not. We've seen a lot of people abusing Keshe Foundation. Last time we paid money to Nashef, and the money disappeared. Thousands of euros disappeared. That's why we stopped communication with him, because it was the abuse of the Keshe Foundation finances when he was supposed to support the disaster area. They came and These things has to stop. We're closing all the abuse channels of the Keshe Foundation resources. We've seen, what's his name? The guy who was in Ireland.
Tom has left
Tom,
a trainer.
what's his name?
Tom Salas.
Tom Salas helped a lot. We supported him in every shape or form. We could get finances to him to teach the locals. He stayed 6 months or so behind. And at the end, we saw how everything he's developed, and he helped the people there. It has to be a long-term teaching while we can, because these things happen frequently in these kind of areas. The Universal Council, the Earth Council, all your members, you have members Spanish speaking, Portuguese speaking, English speaking in these islands. You are responsible for it. Come in, find a solution, put a solution. Positive, not blame game is over, and then go on to the next step. See what Keshe Foundation can support us, can do. And then you'll find other people will join you to do it. It's not my wish, I'm present. Now you have to be present, not only by soul, by action too. We are starting moving in the right direction, but now we have to make commitments to what we put down. Thank you very much.
Mr. Keshe, the topic of decontamination of water came up earlier, and the whole thing around that in terms of the documentation and how to present that into a survival situation, a disaster area, for example, or say a war zone or something like that, where people need to have clean water. And is there a decontamination kit or device of some sort that the Keshe Foundation has that they're developing? Or how would you do that?
We have developed the technology for this. We have a technology for this. We are putting it through certification. Next, we come in organizations which allow us this thing to happen. And we are building a structure. Keshe Foundation has a division, 2 sections of Keshe Foundation who work in this field specifically. And now we add more into it. So yes, there is, but we have to get these things certified before we put it out. We learned that in just giving how to do it, and then saying, oh, this happened, that happened. We are certifying processes that it can go as a blueprint, then we make it public. One of the things you can do, you can make GANs of copper, you can make GANs of CO2, you can make GANs of zinc oxide. Mix liquid plasma of it in the ratio of 1/3 each, and couple of spoon full in 1 liter, let's say 50 milliliter in 1 liter, should kill most of the germs and bring most of the sediments down. But this is a process we are developing. We know from the research in Ghana Water Institute, all the bacteria, all the viruses, germs look to be, in a way, become ineffective. This is what we have developed. We do not put to a point of we're getting it certified. What we see even in the ratio of 10% copper, 40% CO2, 40% zinc oxide, is a very good solution for disinfection. But it has to be further tested, further developed, and certified. But we've done this in the waters of the rivers of Ghana, and we have seen results, very good results. We worked in decontamination in Italy in the same process with cancerous agents. We've seen the good results, but everything has been tested and getting developed further. That's all you can do. Do not use too much of the copper. Very, very little, even as little as 5% with CO2 and zinc oxide, you should see water to be able to be drinkable. If you have a problem, you cannot get hold of zinc, any battery, dead battery, just open the battery up, cut it in half, get the flat, the cover. You need the cover, not what's inside it. Wash it, and just nano coated, which with fire or with ash or with caustic you don't have, and then you make yourself gases. Then you do the same thing with the copper. Less than $1, you can help everybody else. But the beauty of it is, after the position has passed, the need is over, it can be used for agriculture and everything else. You can add CH3 to just feed people with it. Add CO2, zinc oxide, and CH3, 1/3 each. It becomes psychological, less pressure, and at the same time, because it becomes a food pattern. They can put any vegetation in it and continuously eat from the vegetation because it creates a gas of its own. In the coming time, we'll produce these kind of things as documentation, as things, the whole structure of the foundation is working in the background to put things in order.
Yeah, I mentioned to people when you were absent there about the idea that workshops are being standardized and documents are being standardized in order to make the information universal around the world. And
yes, you're a member of the board of directors. You are quite aware. You can teach a lot. You can explain a lot. These things are getting done by a number of people who working around the foundation. We put people in that everything becomes very much standardized and taught, and like the workshops are fully understood by the people we train. The people who do the workshops, that are trained is not willy-nilly anymore. It just takes time for an organization like this to set up everything correctly, and now we are in that. Thank you very much.
I'm sorry, Topoli is too happy.
Yeah, I just confirmed that last statement, I think.
I do apologize, but we've been really struggling to get a decent, stable internet. Oof. We finally, just 1 second, please.
Okay, bear with us another minute while we...
Yes,
there
I'm back. Otherwise it gets too loud for all of you, your ears, because I don't have my headset. I'm going to look for it. We're on the move, that's the problem. When we're on the move, everything is very loud. And there's not much I can do. Sorry for this. But you're part of the family, so you're part of my noise, of my world.
Yeah.
I do want to ask you, have you managed to see Sheila, who put this post out? Was she able to come online? Hello, Rick.
I don't see Sheila in our attendees. If she's there in some other name, please put up your hand and I can promote you to a panelist so that you can speak.
Yeah, if she can come forward. She put the whole list out. I straight away posted it out the minute I spotted it through Kevin, and then I went through the Facebook. I located her, and then I start, as we say, broadcasting it out to awaken and aware the knowledge seekers everywhere, so they could, whoever is near or even maybe themselves on the island, to be reminded, if they are in the position, to go back to as much of what they have learned. As Tom responded to my message, he said that Dominica also has been hit. It's not It's not only Puerto Rico, it's quite a few of the islands which have been really badly damaged. And his wish was straight away, or his reaction was also straight away, the most efficient way is just to introduce the knowledge to as many people as you can and start training them. They can use the ashes from wood burns to decontaminate. This came all in our teaching, so there is sufficient enough information everywhere so people can go to the police. They can go to the minimum and the basics of the teachings to start just spreading the knowledge, because it's much faster to educate somebody or a few, and then that they take up the knowledge and then they can look after themselves. So I'm waiting to see the response, not the sympathies. Sympathies, they are appreciated, but I prefer through our social networks we have built up all together on our KFSSI groups, on our chat rooms, on our Universal Council, through Messenger, through Twitter, through Instagram, wherever we could, I have posted it out. So if you can give me feedback, I have this or we have this, then we can start accumulating all the information and see where we can step in and really carry it out. Tomorrow afternoon, I have private teaching, so the students can already come in and bring all their knowledge in small packages. Don't make it too long. Then people get lost in it. Make it very short, very efficient, step-by-step procedures, and try to see where and who you can locate, which is still online in Puerto Rico or Dominica or any of the other islands. So at least we can give them a hand through the internet and guide them, spend some time with them when they can find network. What we have learned through Tom is do not send money. Money gets blocked. It's not efficient. The banks usually shut down the accounts. They don't let no money to go across. So it's not wise to put money through. It used to work, but not anymore. Tom had really, really hardship to release the funds to be able to work with them. Secondly, do not ship things to the port because they get stuck. It's a matter of people going in themselves and carry whatever they can to give it or hand it over to the local people. So through shipping, post office, through ports, it's going to get stuck because everything is paralyzed. Money, the banks freeze everything. It's Mr. Kesh explained this to me before, and we saw it happening with Tom. Don't do, because it doesn't help. Unless you can go to even a personal account of the person which is there on the island. People set up GoFund to support, and the money takes weeks and weeks, and it's now they need it. So they're not getting it. And that's the whole problem. So please be aware of these problems. Any other suggestions of any other knowledge seekers which maybe are near or even on the island? If you are in Facebook or you're anywhere in live stream, or please give a signal to the webmasters, they can bring you forward for you to be able to speak or to share what you need. Do you see anyone, Vince or Rick? Hello.
Hi, Caroline. Anybody see something there that can use? Any input from YouTube or Facebook?
I see from Ursula, Fernando has an invitation to Reina in Puerto Rico. I'm ready to assist him on place and teach applications with the help of Dr. Rodrigo. I will give and teach. And then I also have friends in San Martin. They want to talk with you. How can I do my best? And then Ursula again, I present already to assist on place. Which to talk to Caroline, how to do my best way. There is Fernando done on place. We have shared a lot and he wants to start a round trip teaching. We wish to start in Puerto Rico and other disaster places. Ursula, you know where I am, you know where you can find me, you can connect me with Fernando Don through Messenger, and then we can start up a chat room. And and Tom Salas has just sent me a message, just 1 second. He says, thanks, Carolina, you could refer people to the 77th workshop where Mr. Kesh chatted with me and gave many good tips on using the available materials to clean water, etc. So I can copy this. Thank you, Tom. Most probably you're not capable of communicating, but if you can, I just copy and paste your message in this chat room so people can pick it up. So we can work through teaching much faster, and Tom can confirm to me that please do not send money. It will not serve the purpose for what you want to send it. It's better to buy material and send it to the people which are going to go in. So it's better for the people which will buy the ticket and travel to the country or take a boat to go in when the time is better to go in, that they can take this extra load with them by the time they ship out. Any other questions, please? Anybody, any news? It's very quiet today.
Hi, Carolina. I am Ursula.
Hi, Ursula.
I wanted to share with you all what I was writing down. It's more clear when I speak. And I will contact you with Fernando soon to arrange all what we propose and what he proposed also, because he's an excellent teacher. I wish that he come into the Spanish teaching because he understood many things about soul. We have been sharing very much together. He is in Mexico, Monterrey, and the same country as Dr. Rodrigo. It's very peaceful to hear their accents, Mexican accents, and we are ready with Fernando to go to Puerto Rico, and we will speak with you in private conversation to see how we can do it and to arrange all the do you want that I translate it because he is hearing? I saw that he was writing to you in English, very good English, so he can understand. May I?
Sure. The only problem is, Ursula, that is when I get kicked out and I was keep on getting in and out of the Zoom meeting, I lose all the chat, so I lose whatever has been posted there. So it's safer if you want to make sure I receive the message to go through my messenger, please.
Okay, I will do it like that, and then we can share with others what comes.
Yeah, you can always post it here and in my messenger, so then I can at least, because every time I lose the line, everything just vanishes, so I cannot recall any of your previous messages, nor even from Don.
Yes, I can understand, and it's in this time connection problems are a lot, so we will try it anyway and get it. Okay, I'm very happy to help. I am measuring my responsibility as you see Spanish, Universal Council in Spanish. Wow, it's very strong feeling, and I will do my best. I wish to do my best and all what I can to give. Thank you.
Did you drop out, Ursula?
Yes, because I say everything I wanted to say, or I have very much to say, but it's so strong all what is happening now that I hope Rui comes over also, because he is all Spanish, South American, you see. So I'm very happy to work it with him. He is a very kind person. It's very peaceful. And others, there are everybody everywhere with so many conflicts. Also here in France with all these vaccine problems. They must vaccine their child to come into school. Without that, they cannot go to school. It's also a disaster. We are trying to go through all this together and help each other, everybody, and this is very powerful. And also, what happens on the island, Caribbean island, finally is a good opportunity for us to show what we can do and to bring it to all those that are suffering so much in this moment. They have a friend there in San Martin. She lost everything. She just bought a house. She lost house, car, everything, and she has any more connection. So everybody needs very, very much help from us, and we must go there also. We will try how to do it soon with you in private conversation, so we can speak together and I can translate for you what Fernando is proposing.
Yeah, just give me the easiest way is to give me short quoting or solutions, what you're planning, what you're capable, and then I bring it to the councils to see where they can help or support, or even knowledge seekers which are in these areas. If you can correspond, if you
yes,
can.
I can, and I am glad to do it. And I already write you this information on your chat Facebook, but I will do it again, maybe Zoom or something. I will see. I'm not very comfortable with technical, but I'm learning. I'm learning fast, and thanks to all those beautiful technicals around us. So we will reach it. And I thank you very much for all what you are sharing and doing, pushing us to do more. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. One thing I would advise, if it is possible, the main problem on the islands which are getting hit like this is that there is hardly any internet. There's hardly any communication system. Please do ask around to find a portable satellite, or maybe knowledge seekers which are familiar with this kind of technology. if they can support you. It's portable. You just open it up and then you can go on the global network. I do not have all the details about it, but we were looking for finding these kind of systems for Alex, because if he starts going into the Rimbo and he doesn't stay near to the city, we completely lose him for 1 or 2 or 3 weeks until he comes back to the city where he has sufficient internet again. So it might be okay if you go for a long trip to see where we can invest for a portable satellite system that the local people then, or as long as you're there to teach, or you go to from one island to another, that it is a portable system you can carry with you.
Yes, I will see with Fernando. He is engineer in informatic. So, and also John from Argentina Misiones, he is also engineer in communication, antennas and all this. So we will see how to do it
Okay.
as fast as possible.
Yeah, and from wherever you live, if you're in a comfortable zone, try to take as much as you can with you. For babies, clean syringes, whatever system that it might help you on your journey, even to protect yourself. Dry your gowns, that you don't go very heavy loaded. Dry them, and then you can just add water to it when you arrive. So it reduces half of your load to carry. Even paint pads, make sure they are nice and dry. That was a very good tip from that lady before. They do not lose their strength, no way. Even with a very small syringe and you just inject some water, you can use them in different ways. Even if you take CH3 patches with you, please set up the systems. There's sufficient enough fruit available on those islands that you can feed people through the food tower. So these are all little notes you can make, and then when you're there, these are all very good systems you can apply to support people.
Yes, Carolina, I am naturopath, and I'm very glad to have the help from Dr. Rodrigo, doctor. So I will keep in touch with him to inform how to make these procedures and learn very much. And I'm very excited to go there, and we will organize all that as soon as possible. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Fernando is asking me, because he don't understand English, what what am I going in? So he is waiting to my translation, and we will do some work.
It might sound very strange, but make sure you keep yourself in perfect health condition. You make sure what you carry is to support you first, because a sick knowledge seeker cannot help many others. If you make sure that you stay in balance, you stay protected, you carry sufficient enough energy, you will be fluently in your teaching and helping and supporting. Because it's you're going to have to carry your tent, you're going to have to carry camping gear with you, that you're independent from the systems if they're not available there.
Yes, this is a big organization, but I'm not alone. There is Fernando there and so many others I hope to reach and do it together.
Stay healthy, that's number one.
Yeah. Thank you, Carolina.
You're welcome.
My best.
Thank you very much. Anything else, Rick, we can share or you have noticed in the background coming up? In the meantime, you're fishing around, Rick. I will make another call out to United States and Canada. Please, people, start coming forward through maybe Golden Age of GAN's Facebook, or through your Facebook groups or KFSSI groups. Please come forward. Make a point that somebody can collect all the information, where you are, what your knowledge is that you carry, how much you can produce, or what you have in stock. Because we live in a planet which is on the move. She is alive. So we are just little people moving around in her nature. And as we see now, this came up. It came up in 2 previous teachings where the other hurricanes, Flint had to go. A lot of people are getting touched by this change of weather and temperature, and it's a natural change. So please start organizing, start getting one pivot point who knows, and then redistribute through the Facebooks to the other people which are in your regions where they can go in case of emergency. That they know what is available, work very transparent, share openly in knowledge, do not hide anything. If you need help, you know where I am, you know where the other knowledge seekers are, you know how to reach the Universal Council. There are support members all the time online too. So there is a path even towards the Earth Council. Please don't overwhelm us with, but be very specific, in very short, concrete in your knowledge or passing on information, so it is easy to collect. I was thinking, Vince, is there a possibility? Are you there, Vince? Vince?
He's probably listening. It might take a minute to get to his microphone. Hello, Vince.
I don't know. I don't know if it's just something that just passed through my head. Maybe it might be working that way much faster. Because there we can collect all the data. We don't need to have somebody in charge of all this data. What do you think, Rick? If Vince comes on, it's fine. What if we open a Wikipedia platform and collect all the data from worldwide there? Because then automatically it gets registered. What do you think?
I'm here. I don't think that's a good idea, because to have information in the about personal or private information anywhere visible to the public, I don't think is a good idea.
No, I was, yeah, you're right. But in sharing pure information, you know, this is the situation here.
But what we can do is that with the community site and the events, we can set up events in particular locations where people can basically respond, or have particular language events going on at particular times. So if you have a group of people that can respond to a particular disaster or whatever, then they should be able to create an event and help out. So we can still gather the information, and then we can supply the events for those people to attend.
Yeah, I'm trying to find an easy place.
It's just a matter of connecting the people to the
Yes, sorry for the noise. Yeah, I'm trying to find somewhere where people can share, but without getting harmed at the same time. Oh, I don't know. I'm trying to find a public platform, you know, where it can be shared without harm. And that's why the wiki just shot through my head. That's why I'm asking your advice.
What particular information? What particular information would have to be shared?
You know, like Sheila just came out with this announcement. We should have a kind of place where they should be able to go straight away public.
Well, I thought you meant about gathering the information from the people who can educate and who can respond to these areas.
Yeah, first where it can be announced, and secondly where people can respond to in a safe way, of in a teaching way, or where they can straight away connect with one another to see where they can support.
I think a good spot for that is the community site when I get it revamped and up and running, because then we can make those posts and we can have people that are members respond, which isn't a personal information. It's whatever they want to provide. So they can just make an account and respond to the
where it is protected.
Yeah.
Where it is protected.
Exactly.
Yeah, I forgot about that one, Vince. I forgot about that one. I was just trying to see where we could work open on an open platform where the information can go much faster. Now it went to Kevin Londell, then it came to me. I picked it up, I copied it, and then I started circulating it. And then I start posting it out, people start responding. So it takes a day or two before it reaches the knowledge seekers. This is the step where I try to reduce the amount of time that can get lost to see where we can bridge that one.
I'm sure we can find a bridge somewhere, Caroline.
Okay. Anything else? Anybody else wants to share something? Particular teachings will be very important if we could send them in small packages or take them, you know, like Ursula, when you go there and you have no internet, do not rely on the public network. Take a small computer which can take a disk or a key with you where the teachings are loaded on the key.
Yes, and Fernando is informatician, technical or engineer, I don't remember. And he has all these tools, and you know, we can nothing do alone, but we can be complementary to all this work together. And also with the help from Dr. Rodrigo for all the doctors teaching. I can apply them on place. The help from everybody, yours, also the foundation, we are not alone.
Yeah, but even if you have voice recordings, yeah, and you don't have the digital, and you have a small tape recorder or something that you can leave behind, that when you move, that they don't lose, or take pictures with the exact explanation how to do it. But laminate them or put them in a plastic cover that they can be passed on. These are all little tips which you can leave the knowledge behind when you move on, that they don't go and say, oh, I forgot this, or I don't remember this, or we want to teach more people and they don't have, you know, anything to back it up because you're moving on. You got to leave something that physically they can go back to the knowledge to review and reanalyze how things are done in case they forget something.
I think
because don't forget, all these people are stressed as well, huh?
That's a really good idea. The idea of a USB stick. Like, what if we had a sort of a survival or disaster area USB key, so that we have all these tips and tricks and videos and information and all together in one key that people could take into the area, have your bag full of USB keys, and you give them out to people, because then, like you said, Caroline, they can plug them into their computers, they can plug them into their MP3 players or whatever they have that can play the USB keys, and they'd be able to access the information offline. Something we don't really consider too much when we use our online facilities so often. Obviously you had connection issues today. Well, you can imagine if that was multiplied so that it took all day to reconnect and get some little bit of information, then you were cut off again, say. Well, the USB key is ideal. You can plug it in. It could have hours and hours of information, as well as just basics that you can use right away, but so that people, it could almost be entertaining and fun for people to learn at the same time, and that would help with their emotional state at the time. For example, there's a group that goes in, that was suggested in the chat here, called All Hands, and they're experienced at going into these disaster areas and presenting people with different programs and different options and so on. And one of the things they do is a simple thing where they have a weekly movie night for the kids. And so the kids all get together in these disaster situations, and they enjoy a movie for a night. And that would be an enormous relief and emotional boost for that area, as you can imagine. So what if we had something like that was fun, educational, and but serious at the same time? All this information collated in one maybe a 32 gigabyte USB stick, for example, and see how much information we can put into that, so that people have that, and then they don't have to rely on just word of mouth and try and remember. Like, it's hard for me right now to remember all these tips and tricks and so on, and I'm thinking, well, if I was suddenly put into that survival situation, would I be able to remember all these different aspects of the the teachings, in terms of there's many people from all over the world that have offered their gifts in terms of how to facilitate these kinds of situations, and put up a feeding station or make the GANs pads and so on.
Rick, maybe you are refreshing my mind, is that's maybe the purpose of Wiki. That you can refer people, that they can just upload it and take it. All these tips can be gathered there. Relief Wiki, or support or knowledge seekers Wiki, or KFSSI Wiki, whatever title we can use, and just start combining all these informations which we have gathered over the months and years, which are very good tips, very short, very accurate. And people can come and add extra good tips of surviving, how to make fire, how to, even the basic things can just all be coming under this one topic, Keshe Foundation, support, or we can find the title for it. But to gather, that was what went through my head, to collect all that. But to put it in one, that people can go and say, I need to take this and that, I can upload this and there, it's straight away there. They don't need to go searching through the whole internet wherever we have dropped or posted our knowledge.
Yeah, you just
and
hit
I
the
think
download,
that will be great.
Hit the download button, and it will give you whatever number of gigabytes of information that could be put onto a USB stick. You could maybe have different options for 2 gigabytes
Even
and 30
the doctors
gigabytes.
can go there, the agriculture can go and add there. You know, it can be a micmac. Everybody should be allowed to go and give quality.
Well, that's the key word is quality. How do we regulate and approve and make it official? Because lots of people have their techniques and ideas that are either personal or they might be a little different than what's recommended by the Keshe Foundation or
you know, Tom just gave us a hint. He said 77th Keshe workshop. It has a content of several topics, so we can select them on ourselves and post it there. And somebody can, maybe councils can, or earth councils can come and give some time. We can put it on a sideline and our knowledge seekers can go through it, or our teachers can go through it, or the ones which are experienced with our knowledge and say, this is a good topic, we can move it to the Keshe Wiki.
Yeah, the transcribers group would be useful for that as well. They're used to their knowledge, and they should be able to access
even somebody should be talking to Tom Salas, because he really gathered huge amount of knowledge on the island, working with the local people, finding solutions, because he was in it. He worked among them, he built it up. So these kind of knowledge seekers are absolutely precious to come back and say, you know, this is what I did, this is how it worked, you know, and pass it to the transcribers, and then even verbally or in text or in video, small videos, just collect all the wisdom from all of you and put it on a Keshe Wiki for relief. Gather your knowledge, people.
Relief Wiki has a nice ring to it, I think. I like that term that you brought up earlier.
Yeah. Yeah, we can work together. We can accumulate all the little nitty-gritties we have for burn wounds, for cuts, for even in herbal, even in any layer of the whatever knowledge it is, it's welcome. Because somebody has somewhere a plant or a herb or water or ashes or copper or zinc, they can work with it. If they can't find one, at least they can find a solution in the other one. As I always bring my lavendel forward, because lavendel you can pour in open wounds. It's the only herb, essential oil, you can apply in an open wound. It disinfects, it kills staphylococcus. It is an amazing, just pure essential oil. And you can make it yourself so easy. You can make the mother tincture by half water, half alcohol if you can get your hands on it. Put the flowers in it, put them in the sun, and you have, after 3 weeks, you have the mother tincture, and you can last for a very long time. And this is the safest one because you cannot toxify nobody with it. That's why I keep with one. When you're more specialized, then you can expand on more, but then you work with your own knowledge. But guide people with the pros and the contras. Too much, too little is never good. And you have an amazing library in your head, Rick, from all the teachings. Vince, the same. Sander. How many knowledge seekers do we have which carry so much knowledge? Gather your teachings where you know it will be applicable there, very short, very accurate, and it will sort people's problems out. And if you can't find the raw material, go in junkyards and see where you can recuperate the material, where they can find it in the rubble, because they can't go to a shop anymore. So guide the people where they can find for them to be able to work with the knowledge. The houses can be demolished, but there's still electric wires. There's still something somewhere that can be used. And it's always good to refresh people's mind where they can find, like Mehran said, find a battery and use the zinc from the battery. Even for the animals, don't forget the animals which have suffered through this kind of wave of storm. So we got a lot to work on, huh, people? And maybe this is a good kickstart because it is happening all over the world. Because this Peace Wiki for relief, it will always...
Caroline, it's not PizWiki. PizWiki is the Sterling Allen site, so I don't think we want to promote that.
No, Rick, no, I don't want to go there.
Yeah. So Vince wanted me to remind you, so I'm doing that here in public so that everybody knows.
I'm sorry, I pronounced it
We
the
have
wrong
the
way.
KF Wiki is the Keck Foundation one, and Wikipedia would be the one for the public.
Thank you for correcting me.
Okay.
What I was intending to say, it's not only for release in this kind of matter of urgency. Now, just turn the table around towards Moshfegh, towards Mohti, towards those regions of the side of the planet, and they haven't gone through a storm, but they live day to day in these kind of situations. So they will benefit from it too. So you're not only serving for people which are going through this kind of situation in Puerto Rico or all these islands which are getting hit, or even the part of the states which are getting hit. Just turn the table around and go towards India, Pakistan, Bangladesh. They are suffering. Africa. You have parts of the world which are in a constant suffering. So they will be able to take the benefits from what you're all gathering as knowledge seekers to bring peace among those people as well. It's not only going to serve a few, it will serve so many souls. And if we all put our shoulders under it, we will make a beautiful job. So now we are I'm not only going to the Spanish-speaking councils, I'm also going to the people which are representing the other sides of this planet where the suffering is on day-to-day basis. And they were never coming so very well on the table because, you know, it's there every day. And we should put our attention there too. Wherever we have this kind of situations, it's time for everyone to put their hands out and say, I'm here to help, I'm here to serve. And if it's collecting data, if it's making it available, it's already your work, which you have the benefit, you have seen it working, you got the processing of it, you have worked accurate, we will control it, we will check it, it will go worldwide. So it will serve huge amount of the world population. Africa, Nigeria, Hawaii, you name it, India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, you name it, it will go where it's needed because all our heart is wishing for it. All our heart is yearning to relieve these kind of pains, and we are there. Now it's time to see your fruit from all your work and all the knowledge you gathered, to see it coming into flourishing, to be able to serve in the proper way. We can send so much information to Moshfegh. Even people can go and travel towards Moshfegh. and give him a hand, because he's complaining about a fever. It's going through people like mad. Then Motek was also asking for help. Maybe it's time to open our doors worldwide, not to stick to certain points only, but really opening our rasters and see what we have in our knowledge, in our heart, in our soul, to start serving with our intent. And I'm pretty sure that Facebook will start zooming, Messenger will start zooming, Twitter will start zooming. We will see people start moving because your heart is beating in that way to serve. And now we can. All together we can. We will become a big family in serving, loving and caring. Anyone? Any other sharing?
There's CA on live stream that mentions a couple of applications that are useful for cell phones if people have cell phone reception in the areas that they're in, like Periscope was mentioned, and WhatsApp as a means of communication. I think Periscope records videos, so you could record a live Knowledge Seekers workshop or something like that and play it back later is the idea.
There's actually there's also a cell phone app you can install that turns your cell phone into a peer-to-peer access device, which means with 2 or more cell phones you can actually walkie-talkie or use the cell phone's Wi-Fi to talk to another cell phone through just local Wi-Fi. So, and the app is shareable among phones, and so you can create your own network just with a bunch of phones. No towers access needed.
As long as there's Wi-Fi.
No, you're using the cell phone's Wi-Fi to broadcast, send, and receive to another cell phone. So it's a peer-to-peer network. So as long as you have phones within 100, 200 feet of each other.
Right, that's what I was going to say.
And it bounces
across. You still
across.
need cellular access, though.
No, you don't.
No, to be able to access the internet, those phones would still.
Well, to the internet, but I mean, at least it's a communication device between people.
But if they're 100 feet apart, you could pretty much talk to someone who's the problem.
But I mean, it would set up a grid network, so you could have, a grid network of communications that way. And
possibly it could tie into some other means, like, for example, they have ham radio is often the only thing that remains working in an area because it doesn't rely on the local cell phone towers and all that kind of thing. It relies on radio waves, which will still work, generally speaking. So ham radio is often the means that they communicate, but you can also hook up a cell phone to a ham radio network, for example, and maybe sell at one end and at the other end and have the ham radio as an intermediary. But that gets a little complicated for most users.
you see, if we all bring our heads together and our experience and our nitty-gritty secrets, and we share them in public to serve somewhere, somebody, it will be a great help. It will be a great support. And I just saw something coming up in the chat when I was scrolling through it. And Jay McDougall say, but again, the peace and soul factor would be missing. And I said to him and to all the other panelists, I said, this isn't missing because we can serve the world, because we will bring by each you as a knowledge seeker, bringing that little part of your knowledge, what you know, what you will share, that it can support somebody else, it will bring that smile or that calmness or that comfort to another soul. No matter where they're going to be at the time, they will receive what you intended in the first place to share. But if we don't share and we don't bring it public, then no soul can benefit from it. So the more we put our shoulders on sharing in whatever you have, that you say, this is working and I know this is knowledge. But usually people keep it to themselves. But this is the difference. This is the change for what we say, one planet, one nation, one race. This is for the world peace. So the more souls we can reach by just adding that little bit of knowledge into their time of stress, you make them more peaceful. And that's what we are all aiming for. It doesn't matter where they are at this moment, but we know there is suffering in a lot of parts of the world. And if we are aware of it, and we start not only responding because there is a chaos, because a huge storm has passed, not that it is nothing, it is really devastating. People just, from 1 minute to another, it's just everything vanishes. But never forget, there are people which are living in this condition day in, day out. And we have to reach those people as well. And maybe we found a path, or through Puerto Rico, through the call of Sheila, maybe all our souls have found a path to expand now, that we can see and include all the ones which are in a day-to-day condition like this. To start opening the doors and the windows and see what those people can be served with. Maybe this is the sheikh which had to go through so many, because if you read it, it is chilling. It goes back to your spine. It's food, it's children, it's elderly, it's hospitals, everything is crippled. Nature is crippled, animals are crippled, people are crippled. The whole social network is not working anymore. Everything is really in a mess. But one thing and one factor which we have, and we cannot, not this time, is that we should connect it to the people which live in these kind of conditions day to day. And I think this will be a challenge for a lot of knowledge seekers. But it will be with pleasure. Because you know you have the knowledge, you know what you have achieved at home, you know what you have shared, you know how to share. Even the people which are shy start coming forward and say, you know, I can teach, I can explain. And I see people coming out of the woodwork which were hidden, and now they start coming forward. And that's the whole beauty. We are growing. And we are growing faster than anyone can believe we are growing. And it's just by sharing knowledge. Because Rick or Vince or Stanley or Sander, you're all too far away to come and me to give you a hug and a kiss and a cuddle to say thank you. But you're present, and all the other knowledge seekers are present. And by appearing in these presentations and working and being good students, because I see you popping everywhere, I see you all working and all in the same ethos. It is beautiful because you're growing as a family in sharing knowledge. But it doesn't mean because you're on the other side of the world that I'm not connected with you, or you're not connected with me, because we are close, because we are walking the same path. And this is where our fields are expanding to reach more, to walk the same path. And it's by your expansion, by your growing, by your exploring the knowledge, you're opening up more doors for others to walk in. It's not by staying hidden behind four walls and keep everything to yourself. That's not the path that's going to work. And it shows that it's not working this way. It shows totally the opposite. We are at the beginning of these teachings. These are just the first few teachings. But they're growing every week. And Mr. Kesh makes sure he's present or he's around, he comes in. We're working as teams everywhere. We are calling for people which want to come and stand up and say, I can do this, I can perform in this, I'm good at this. We'll give you an interview. We will talk to you. We will sit down with you. But you have to have the courage to come forward and trust yourself that you are, because you are. Don't be scared. We're growing very fast. And maybe, Rick, it might be a good idea if we start this relief on KF to always add the result of it. You know, like, let's say I burn my hand and I use CO2 to take a picture before and then a picture when you apply it against CO2, that people can see results. When you have plants and you start working in the garden, make pictures that it's not only for the people which can hear, can see, and can speak, but that we can reach all the people which have certain parts which they cannot reach or they don't understand the language, but they bump into the website and they see, oh, but by pictures, visually, you can already support them with no language. So try to work with a lot of images, not too big, that they don't take too much room, but visually that people can see the process.
There is the document came out a year or two ago, the plasmatic first aid, and it was like 1 or 2 sheets of information. I think it was front and back of a 8.5 by 11 sheet that could be laminated, and it had all the GANs and nano information, the basics embedded in that document, and it was quite nice. There's a lot of positive feedback about that, and people found it so useful and so easy to deal with. You didn't have to go to some massive website to try to search through all the information and so on. It was all there on one little package. And I'm wondering maybe if we can update that to get the latest knowledge and maybe present or redo it into a similar document that would be easy to pass out in a survival situation, for example, where maybe you don't have the internet, you don't have cell phone coverage and so on. All you have is leaflets you can give to people, or some other means of maybe a workshop or talking to them. But this could be the reminder, the thing they take home with them that reminds them that they can have virtually forever. When it's encased in plastic, it lasts for 10 years or more. And it's the information, the very bare necessities information they need, so that under a stressful situation, which is usually these kinds of situations are very stressful, in which case most people kind of fall apart or are busy in their minds with so many other things that they're not able to focus on what is an easy and effective, first aid treatment for burns that I can make in my own home, because I can't access any of those pharmaceutical companies or the pharmacy or the drugstore or the, can't even find Band-Aids perhaps. So they need to know how to make the water pure, how to, pain patches and relieve pain and help with various first aid type situations. So that would be one way, I think. I really liked that document. It was very precise, and it was informational that didn't require that much English to explain it. And the English was easily translated into other languages that needed the explanation. But if we can keep things, like you were saying, Caroline, in pictorial, in pictures or simple drawings, and to make that, which is the universal language, right? The language of drawing is universal, where people can understand through the images, through these icon images that we use. We should be able to make it, it'd be great if we could make that whole document so it could be understood literally anywhere in the universe, or, well, at least on planet Earth, let's say. Let's limit it to that for now. And so that it didn't require English to interpret it. It should be self-explanatory in every language. That would be a great goal to achieve. The whole teaching in 2 pages, universal with no English. It should be easy.
It will change a lot. It will do a lot. It will reach a lot. Just 5 minutes, please, Rick.
Okay, thank you. Okay, can we get some more feedback from people here? We have a comment from Boniface, who says, I wonder what we can learn from groups like Doctors Without Borders and the Red Cross about how to respond to emergency situations. Well, that's something to think about as well. They're very specialized in emergency response. That's true. The Red Cross is not always coming across as having the best intentions at times, but that's come up in the news sometimes recently. It seems like a small percent of the donations that are given is what ends up being used in the field, so to speak.
Yeah, Roy speaking. Sorry.
It's okay.
Sorry, these are both Mason organizations, so that's why we can learn with the people that it really is on the field, but not with the organization. It's my say. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm wondering how the Keshe Foundation might be able to work with some of these other organizations, perhaps, maybe in the future as we become more established and more mainstream.
Hello, Rick.
Hello.
This is Boniface. Maybe I should clarify the post I made. Not so much as them how to do what they do. Obviously, we have, I believe, much more superior benefit, to the population. But the experience and setting up structures in terms of, basically organization and the rationale for it. I'm not concerned about the amount of profit incentive they may have, but I believe in not reinventing the wheel. So if there are some things they do that can be beneficial, perhaps you can learn from it. And that's the purpose for that post. Because obviously, if they were, as effective as they could be, then there wouldn't be any need for any kind of assistance from anybody else. But they are not. But I'm sure they have learned some things that we can learn from, and then we apply it in our own way. Thank you very much.
Sure, that makes sense. We have Theodore with his hand up, and Peter, and I'll allow you to talk there, Theodore, and promote you to panelist, and also Peter.
Hi, Rick. This is Peter. If this is a good time, I can offer something.
Sure.
I live in the Pacific Northwest, just south of you, and as we all know that at some point there's going to be quite an earthquake in this area, as predicted, and the state here offers these trainings. We took one about 4 years ago with a lot of our neighbors, and it's called the CERT training. It's a community emergency response team. And you learn how to, what the first steps are and subsequent steps of what you do in an emergency, from the first immediate triage of how to safely go through buildings, how to, assess where people are physically and treat them, to aspects of that as you get further and further away from the immediate disaster. And it was just an incredible training. And there's a up-leveling of that that's called the DART training, the Disaster Assistance Response Team. And my thinking on this is that that training is very thorough and systematic, and comes from a lot of experience in how it's offered. And if you then take that training and we take it to another level of where we have that physical hands-on, muscle memoried how to respond, but then work locally with the people in our area that are connected with the Keshe work, and add that to it, I think then we're looking at a level of being able to respond and continue that response after there's a disaster of one form or another, and have an effect that is far greater. But this aspect of how do Doctors Without Borders or the Red Cross respond, that's usually after something has happened. But immediately when something has taken place, there are certain steps and ways that one responds. And if we have the technologies with us, then we're able to assist in a whole other way immediately, and then subsequently thereafter. And we found it very helpful, and work with our neighbors to keep that training up to date. That's all.
Wow.
That's good information. Thank you. Hello? Someone in the background there. Okay. Theodore, Ted, do you want to say something? Not sure if you're able to unmute there, Theodore. It's broken up. Try again.
Rick, can you hear me now?
Yeah, that's a little better. Thank you.
Thank you. Just checking in on you all on this beautiful peace day, and wishing everybody a beautiful day. I heard Caroline talking about people stepping up to the plate and showing that effort, or putting in that, admitting that they can and do these things. And I heard somebody talking the other night on an internet radio show, and I did some looking into it, and I think it pertains to our mission of peace. And I was calling and wishing for your all support for a gentleman that I believe is putting himself out there like that. And he lives up in Minnesota, and he's an investigative journalist, and his name is Timothy Holmsmith, Holmseth. And he's coming out with some real interesting journalism about basically these child kidnapping rings. And I think as an essence of what we understand as energy now, and what's going on with the utilization of the energy of the human, especially of the children and of the innocents, and how we've all decided that we no longer are going to allow this on Earth. And there's a gentleman out there that he is an investigative journalist, and he got information together about a case that got some attention here in the United States. And within an amount of time, this child predator ring was kind of utilizing him in their own internal war. They were sending him information to like kind of hold against the other people in the group, so that they could kind of leverage. They had their own internal struggles, and this gentleman recorded everything, and he just released all of it, and it is just absolutely mind-boggling. It speaks to the fact of these people that work with the government and work with groups that are transporting children back to Belgium, utilizing doctors and airplanes. And these people are speaking it on these tapes. This man's had a lot of threats on his life. They threatened his daughter. They've threatened his granddaughter. He's going through court orders right now. They're trying to silence him. He's being able to speak less and less names because they're hitting him with court orders that if he speaks the names, it'll go to jail. And so I just am asking for your all support. If you think this is an important topic, and I do believe that this is very important to peace, and I know Mr. Kesh has spoken on this, and I know Mrs. Kesh has spoken on this, and I've heard a lot of people speak on this, and I just think our brother might not know about us and what we do for world peace, but I know that even if he doesn't know that we know, we do know what he's up to, and I think that we can impact just with our consciousness, have that effect to help protect him, because I feel like this is the kind of thing that there's a lot of information coming out on here in the United States. And I feel like right now is the time that this thread could get pulled. And this is the thing that connects everything. It's not, all scientists, we need to make money. We got to have energy, this, or, we got to have oil. We have to have cars. I believe it really all starts with this, with the children. And I believe that once we get this clarified on Earth, then everything else falls into place. And I think that with our intentions over the last couple years, and with the help of a lot of people that are investigating these things through the internet, because they're tired of seeing these things happen and no justice is being served. Nobody's going to jail. It seems like people are complicit within the law of it. So I think that this is our wish, or at least my wish. This is why I'm calling to share with you all that gentleman, Timothy Holmes Smith, and he's got a internet site called Write Into Action, WRITE, like you're writing, because he's a writer. He writeintoaction.com, and I don't think many people know about him. And I stumbled into it because my heart carries me where it needs to carry me. And this gentleman, in my opinion, needs our love and trust and respect. And if you all could help me with that, I'd be more than grateful, as usual. And with that, I'll let you all get back to peace. And I love you all very much. Bye now.
Thank you, Ted. I am present.
I'm present.
I am present. I am present.
I am present.
Okay, thank you
for your presence. I really appreciate it.
Okay, we'll carry that.
This is Moshfek, and I would like to add something to this. What Theodore just talked about is a disaster situation as well. Can we locally help this kind of situation in any way as Keshe Foundation, with our technology or without it? Can we help in addressing? This is yet another disaster situation which has to be addressed and cleaned up. And beyond wishing and being present, can we make local arrangements, much like when disasters happen around us, whether it's in the United States or in Bangladesh, which I am familiar about this situation here as well. And it happens all around us all the time. Yet, we don't have any arrangement at the public level or at the levels of citizens to address it. Yes, there is threats, but at the same time, this has to be addressed.
Well, it's a good point. We don't have the necessary avenues to really address it, and perhaps that's part of what the Keshe Foundation is doing and needs to do, is to establish communication lines along that way. How do we deal with these kinds of situations as a community? Go ahead. There's someone wanted to say something.
Yeah, Rick. This is Theodore. This is Ted calling here in West Virginia, and I'll be saying that I'm feeling that there's a lot of people that know about this, and they're in fear. They can't come forward for whatever reason. I feel there's even people that are taking part in this that don't want to take part in this, but they have no choice. It's like being in a gang. Once you're in for life. And they know the consequences of what happens if they leave. It's their kids, it's their family. So I think we need to have the compassion for these people. And we need to really understand what's going on empathetically and pathetically and compassionately, because it's a deeper, heavier thing than we want to just say it's all evil, and it is not good. But the people that can change this, that have the ability, I mean, people that have done bad in their life could be the biggest crux for the change ever. They could redeem the whole world just based upon the evil that they did. and so much good can come out of it if it's chosen, if the path is chosen, if it's correct. And it's for my intention, it's to send the energy and the what we have, the wherewithal and the knowing to these people that they are protected, that in this life you are protected when you work with children. And if people see retribution, that's not correct, and those people will see what they'll see also. So I mean, in my opinion, it really is up to these people that are in these groups that have the knowing, that know these things, to come out and share them. And I believe, but once they do, they're oftentimes, they are persecuted and things like that. And then, for instance, this journalist, he's got all these tapes of these people saying these things. He sent it to the FBI, he sent it to numerous places to be investigated. They have investigated it. And, not much is, then it just all kind of, everything just stops. And so I think it's up for some good law enforcement people to really take charge. It's up for some people that are in these groups to really, that want out, to know that now is the time. Like we have opened up the door for them. We're helping to keep the door open. We're here for their protection, as long as, I mean, that's the way I view it. And that's how I try on my side, with having very little access to actually helping anybody physically. I do it with my thoughts, and I do it with my intentions. And I just thought I'd add that to you all. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Ted. That's a good point. More and more of both the perpetrators and the ones that are blowing the whistle on the perpetrators is going to become more prevalent in the future. So in a way, we have to have compassion and protection for all sides of the equation, in a way. Some of these stories of the pedophiles and so on are, you have to have some compassion in terms of, let's look at, for example, the native abuses in Canada, where often is the case where a native child may have gone through a residential, what they call the residential school system, which was the government taking native children off of their reserves and off of the lands they lived on for their life, and put them in a school run by predominantly white people and predominantly religions, to teach them the white man's ways. And they're scolded and strapped if they were to use their own language, and they have to do all the rules and regulations that they're not used to, and so on. And a lot of abuse took place. So what happens is those students, those young people, went on to create a life and pass on that abuse to their children, because that's what they learned when they were young, how to abuse. And that's what people learn when they get abused, is how to abuse. They don't learn how to not be abused necessarily, but they might be able to learn that later, or get strong enough to offset that at some point. So we have this chain of abuse that takes place, and eventually, it comes down to, you have to have compassion for the total picture, because it's not really the fault of the person who's creating that abuse. It's the habit has been built up over generations, perhaps, in some cases, and it's something that needs to be, it's a dark thing that needs to be brought into the light, you might say, with our modern perceptions and our modern attitudes, and sense of caring for all the people, especially the young people in our society, and so on. So what they're finding through these committees that have been set up in Canada to address this, because there's a strong push in Canada now from the Prime Minister and from the people in government to reconcile. There's a reconciliation process going on where the people that have been abused are coming forward and they give their story in complete detail, and it is put on the record. And then later, actually, years later, the records are planned to be destroyed so that all that private information is not necessarily kept unless the person specifically wants to keep that and so on. So it's through this reconciliation process, which they're developing and has been developed over a period of years, they're working out ways that people can come forward with their story of abuse and being abused, and not making it okay, but making it come out into the open so that it's no longer festering. It becomes once something becomes exposed, then you start to be able to deal with it. You start to be able to examine it in a more impartial way, because then you can see it. It's right in front of you, and others are now aware of it, and you can have a common understanding and a common experience that gets developed around working out the details of all that. So, of course, there's lots of grief around that process and lots of emotional experiences, but also there's a tremendous amount of relief and tremendous amount of that loss of anxiety over that whole tension that's been built up over many decades. So we have Indian chiefs that are the native Aboriginal chiefs that are just breaking down, crying about these experiences that they had 5 or 6 decades ago or more, but now they realize that by talking, perhaps on national TV or in some council or some group in front of the public, and they have to actually talk about their experiences and essentially relive them again and so on. But through this experience, even though it may still bring tears to their eyes literally as they recall it, maybe for the 100th time or the 1000th time again, still you can see that it's bringing relief and making them much stronger through that process, because now they have a handle on it. Now they have they can see where they are not just the abused person. They are now able to reestablish their own sense of self-esteem and get a closer look at exactly who they are as a human being, rather than as the abused person or the one who's worthless, who has been made to feel worthless in their life and so on. This is what they speak of. So it's a matter of respect, and I think that's a key word that comes up in all of our interactions, is we have respect for children and for the people that are undergoing abuses and just hard times all around the planet. Like we talked about earlier, it could be a war zone, it could be a disaster, it could be just ordinary life for some people is like a walking disaster all the time. So we have to have compassion and respect for these humans, and through that we end up just naturally wishing to help, and we'll find ways to alleviate the suffering on this planet. Anybody else have some comments about that? Wondering if Caroline, are you there yet, or Caroline or Mr. Kesh available? Okay, I'm wondering if we should phase out for today as well. It's been almost 3.5 hours now.
Rick, is it too late to ask Pete a question about his presentation?
No, I think that'd be fine.
Okay. Again, this is Boniface, and thanks for your Is Pete still here? Well, I guess he's not, so I don't know if I should go ahead with that or not.
Is it Peter?
No, the gentleman that gave the presentation.
Yeah, it's Pete from Universal Council, and
He's the Polish.
Yeah, I don't see him here now, actually.
No, I don't see him here either.
All right. Well, okay, we'll hold off then.
You can hold that till next week, perhaps.
All right, thank you.
I can try inviting in here. Okay, he's here now. I invited him in.
Hello, Pete.
Yes, hello.
Hi, this is Boniface. Thanks for your presentation earlier. I had a quick question about one of your slides, and my recollection was a couple of statements. One was stronger, where the stronger feeds the weaker, and you said the old way, and then some bullets under that, and then you said stronger feeds the weaker, new way. And I just couldn't get a distinction that you're trying to establish there. I was just wondering if you could give us a little bit more on that. It's like you're making the same points, but I wasn't seeing the distinction.
Yep. So what I meant in stronger feeding the weaker the old way is all this, the way we are steered, you know, the way the information is fed onto us and how we sort of intercept this information and how we build on certain feelings inside ourselves. So, you know, one person says, you know, we should all go to war, or, you know, this is bad, or, you know, there's a lot of cancer and so on and so on. And immediately, millions of people receiving these news, this media, through the different media, they start working in the same emotional level. You know, they start that the seed has been planted, and sort of the seed starts growing inside of us. You know, we share the similar emotions. The sort of the bad emotions, the negativity gets into us. So the old way, what I meant, sorry, the new way, what I meant was that it's time to stop this process. You know, when we are passively sitting in front of the tellies, waiting to be fed with a spoon, not even knowing what we are being fed with, you know, and just being passive and intercepting these emotions and letting them grow inside of us. So the new way, the way I see it is, you know, we build up this strength of positive emotions inside of us. We all work at the same or similar field strength, and you know, we are all part of one. So every each of us adds up to this. You know, to the totality, right? So the more of us, the stronger the sum of parts is going to be. So now the leverage, you know, it's on our side. You know, we can be the stronger field. Right now, the stronger field are governments, religions, and so on and so on. But we can turn it, and we can become the stronger field, the one that starts feeding the weaker. You know, so that's what I meant.
Okay, so the basic principle is that it's always the stronger feeds the weaker, but we have the opportunity to be the stronger in this new realm. Is that basically where you're heading?
Yeah, if we all unite in the same field strength, if we all share the same emotions, if we all carry peace inside, and if this is what we are, what our life is about, and this is who we are and what we are, then the different parts, they add up, and the sum of these parts becomes greater and greater over time. The more people are united in the same in the same thing, in the same ethos, in the same peace and so on.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. I hope I made myself clear. I mean, this is just the way I understand it and the way I see it. So it's open to comments and suggestions.
Thank you very much, Pete. Good timing there. Okay, I think we should maybe wrap things up for today. If there's no other input or questions from anyone. Libby says, transform the love of power to the power of love. Thank you, Libby. That's a great ending comment in the chat.
Rick, this is Mosvik again. One of the things you just talked about the Canadian situation, which is actually what Pete was, it's actually a good practical manifestation of what Pete just talked about, which is compassion, the higher strength field of compassion or forgiveness is helping all these people to come out and see their old action, which is out of fear or desperation, which is lower strength field, and forgive themselves, and as well as bringing this stronger field situation into public view and making us stronger. And we can similarly, by showing forgiveness to these people who are have been for thousands of years in unfortunate situation, but by having a stronger field of forgiveness, compassion that you just talked about, we can turn the situation to stronger field strength feeding the weaker and improving the situation in that manner. So I think the beginning and the end of today's workshop is nice in the sense that Pete brought up the conceptual point of view, and Rick, you talked about a practical application at a local level of what some of the things we have been talking about, and which is very nice. It gives a closure in terms of concept as well as practical application and demonstration of this concept in our lives, specifically in this case in Canada. And we can learn from Canadians this thing and apply it elsewhere, applying this, using the same compassion, forgiveness, and respect, and raise this situation, which is a disaster, into something that we all thrive on. So anyway,
I could add about that the Prime Minister of Canada, Justin Trudeau, just gave a speech at the United Nations, and it was all about this. It was all about this reconciliation and the work the Canadian government is doing that way, and about this process and so on. And it was a very much a very open and revealing and vulnerable position that he showed with the UN. It's not often that basically some people are criticizing him for airing Canada's dirty laundry, but what he did though was he established this as something that needs to be addressed, something that has always been pushed aside in the past, even by the Canadian government, as he admitted in his talk, and that we've always, we'd give lip service to it, but it was not really totally addressed, and actually the Aboriginals given the respect they deserve through this whole process and so on. And he brought this up, and he didn't just bring it up as a small comment on the side. This was the main topic of his whole speech, and he kept referring back and interweaving this narrative, which reflects on the whole world. I mean, if you look at what we talked about earlier with these pedophile networks, and back to Belgium and back to there's other countries, and every country has their aspect of abuse, and especially abuse of children, that they have to confront. It's time to confront this, because there's a new mood of truth and honesty sweeping through the world, and it's no longer, people are no longer able to keep that facade up, and that there's just what's his name, Harvey Wickenstein or whatever his last name is, this famous Hollywood director and famous he's famous for his interactions with young women, actually, more than anything else. So, but that was put up with in the past, and they were paid off, and all this kind of thing went on in the past. But now he's confronted with his past. He's just been kicked out of his own company. He's the CEO of his company has been kicked out by the shareholders because they do not want that stigma on their company anymore. So because he had this, wild lifestyle, and still does probably, but he's now paying for it big time, and there's a chance he might have to go to prison for it. So this is what's happening all over the world. These the old boys clubs that could get away with this sort of thing in the past are no longer getting away with it. The priests that were abusing so much and still continue to be are getting called out, and they're actually having to do things about it rather than just post them to another position somewhere else. The church no longer accepts that as a way to deal with the situation. They're now responsible and have been confronted that they have to do something other than just move people around in a shell game to keep the whole thing going. So you see more and more class action lawsuits. You see actions against the government, and different lawyers for Aboriginals and so on are getting their grips onto the details of the laws so that they can, establish the rights for the people that were in the areas originally and that kind of thing. There's mining companies that are being shut down because of their abuses with natives. There's all kinds of things are being discovered and unveiled to the public now, and we're not putting up with that kind of behavior. So there is a lot of hope for all of that situation, is the bottom line, I think. And part of that is through this confronting what is really going on with all of its ugly details, and then actually doing a reconciling process with the parties involved. And that usually means sitting down and letting each other know what happened, and apologizing or finding some way through the situation that everybody gets alleviated of that suffering, essentially. And that may be personal, maybe a physical suffering, or it may be, in most cases, psychological or emotional suffering. And once those emotions and suffering gets cleared, then those people become so much stronger and so much more able to help others in their position, and to be good players on the world scene, on the world and local scene. Their environment will totally change. You can see how they're interviewing some of these Aboriginals that went through this process of reconciliation, and they are totally changed. They no longer have that anger, and that they no longer feel that worthlessness that they did when growing up through their whole life, feeling worthless because they were told they were worthless. It was beat into them, literally, on a daily basis, multiple times, with anything handy, sticks and hands and anything else. They would beat into them that they were worthless, and they needed to change into the white people's ways and so on, that all of their traditions and all of their language was not okay. It was totally banned and literally beat out of them, and abused out of them as well. So I think we need to, as humans, have compassion and understanding for these situations, and realize that they're going to be coming up more and more as we go along, and everything will be outed and revealed, and it's the fallout that we have to learn to deal with in a compassionate way. So we're not doing, like was shown in the early part of this workshop, the isolation. We don't want to necessarily just isolate the abusers and the abused ones and so on, and to make them into a stigma and whatnot, but we have to find a way to transform the situation, to elevate those who are involved, so that they have a different perspective and are able then to go on to help others, and to go on to, well, especially help themselves first of all, but then after that process, hopefully they'll go on and help others. And that's part of the natural process that occurs. Once you've seen that you can heal yourself, then you naturally have both the ability and an inkling, a feeling that you want to help others in similar situations. So I think that's it's part of the changes that are going on in our planet now, and it's quite refreshing to see that kind of. When I saw that speech from our Prime Minister of Canada, I was very impressed. I thought, wow, this is going to really this will really change things. This opening up and being completely honest that yes, our government was responsible for these abuses, and yes, we can't even understand now why we had those attitudes back then, because we know now that they don't work. This colonialism, authoritarian thing just doesn't work. It ends up with a mess decades later that the colonialists always have to deal with. So the only way to resolve it is through this reconciliation process, and try to get all parties to recognize what happened, and then resolve it through an emotional relief through certain processes that are known to those that work in those realms. Okay, any other comments about that, or shall we wrap things up?
If I may, Rick, and it won't take long, it's Doug here.
Hey, Doug.
Hi. In Australia, there's a show on now, it's, you could say, an ethnic television station. It's called Look Me in the Eye, and it's quite a radical presentation by a man who descends from Aboriginal stock, and he's quite famous as a TV presenter, and he puts two people who have had very difficult circumstances with each other, like a jailer and a prisoner, or people that have had violent confrontations in the past, and they sit facing each other in an empty room and simply look each other in the eye, and they obviously see into each other's soul, and many things that would be totally impossible to reconcile, grudges, hate, resentment, any of those negative emotions melt in front of the camera. And I think that's a sign of that even would get onto television, and the concept would come up as exactly a sign of what you're talking about and what we're talking about, that the times are changing and you can't hide those problems, because that's the cause of much disease, physical and mental and emotional, in our society, and it's just coming out now. And I just wanted to say that. Thank you.
Well, the eyes are the windows of the soul, so they say. It's also the doorway, in a way. So, and when we see eye to eye, literally eye to eye with someone else, then there is no misunderstanding. That is the definition of that. You see eye to eye. There's a levelness. You recognize the other energy package is equivalent to you, and it comes from the same source, the same essence. And once you see that same source or same essence in the eyes of someone else, then you recognize it is you, and you are it. And how could you harm someone that's you?
Hello, Rick.
Hello.
Boniface again. I'll make this quick, but I'm happy to hear. Okay. I just want to congratulate Canada for what they're doing. I think it's just great. And without reconciliation, you have like a cancer. It just festers and festers until something very undesirable happens. I was glad to see South Africa go through reconciliation, because imagine what would have happened after apartheid if they hadn't gone through reconciliation. When black people came into power, it would have been a disaster. So I'm glad to hear about Australia also, what they're doing. Now, my wish is that here in the United States, at some point, we will find a way to reconciliation, because there's racism here, and everybody's aware of the history, I hope. And it's that elephant in the room that people don't want to talk about, and it just goes into cycles again and again because there has been no reconciliation. And so it is a cancer. It's like a sore that just festers and festers. And now we have a very active instigator in the leadership in the government that is bringing this up again. So reconciliation is needed, and it couldn't happen soon enough. So I want to congratulate Canada, and hopefully we'll follow your example, or we all move up there. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Boniface. Anyone else with a last-minute comment? A quick last-minute comment? Okay, well, let's wrap things up for today. It's been a good progress today, I think. And we have lots of ideas and suggestions on how to proceed and how to we need to allow some thoughts on this whole survival situation, whether it's a disaster area or ordinary daily life for some people. Life can be very tough, and part of why we're here is to help alleviate that suffering that occurs from our interaction with our physicality on this level, it seems. But it all comes from the soul level as far as the actual real changes that take place. So that's part of what we learn here, and I'm very grateful personally for the experience of being in this group here and with the Keshe Foundation in general, who always, Mr. Keshe and Caroline and other knowledge seekers always seem to bring it around to the things that are truly important in our lives, which are our relationship to our own soul and to the universal soul, you might say, that seems pervasive. All right, enough for today. Thank you everybody for attending the 9th One Nation, One Planet, One Race for World Peace for Tuesday, October 10th, 2017. And we'll look forward to seeing you here next week at the same time and place.
Thank you, Rick. Thank you, team. Thank you, knowledge seekers. See you next time.
Gee, about time you showed up. Thank you.
You've done wonderful.
It was great. Thank you very much for today's
Thank you very much for sharing, all of you. We're going to start moving.
Right on. Yep.
See you. Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye for now. And I think, Flint, if you want to take things out on a musical note, that would be great.